I just found out about this today, like an hour ago. It's very important. So, Derek Chauvin, the guy who killed George Floyd, was taken into custody, and he originally had charges brought against him. I believe it was second-degree murder and first-degree manslaughter, if I believe correctly. We have an article here that we can go over so we can see for ourselves. Bystander video showing Floyd's May 25th death has sparked protests nationwide around the world. Officer Derek Chauvin was fired May 26th and initially charged with third-degree murder and second-degree manslaughter. First today, I filed an amended complaint that charges the Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin with murder in the second degree for the death of George Floyd, Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison said. I believe the evidence available to us now supports the stronger charge of second-degree murder. So originally, he was charged with third-degree murder and second-degree manslaughter, and that's being upped to make sure that this guy, when he's taken to court and hopefully loses, that he's put away for an even longer amount of time than he was originally. Third-degree murder, I believe, is a sort of murder where you do it, but it was unintentional and you weren't intending to hurt them or anything. I think it was just negligent, just being extremely negligent. That was the third-degree murder charge. It got up to second-degree murder, which I think has a new clause of you actively wanting to do damage to someone and that leading to their death. It's not first-degree murder, because first-degree murder, that's the worst one, and that means you have to think about it before you commit the crime, which we know probably didn't happen here. He just wanted to hurt this guy and then ended up killing him. Which means that this guy's just crazy. With all the complaints that he's had against him during his time, he should have been off the force for a long time ago. He should have been off the force a long time ago. And all those prosecutors, the police department, only have themselves to blame for letting this guy stay on the force long enough to do this sort of damage to the community, this sort of damage to George Floyd, and this sort of damage to the country in general. That rests on their shoulders. And that's not a stain that will go away very easily, if at all, ever. 3 officers were also fired but weren't immediately charged. Attorney General Keith Ellison on Wednesday charged the other 3 officers with aiding and abetting second-degree murder and manslaughter, which is great. You see this a lot where people try to minimize how bad the police is by saying that, we only need to worry about the bad cops. You know, cops usually roll around with more than one person, even though there's one person probably doing what we would call an action that would consider them to be a bad cop. There are other police officers there not doing anything about it. Would you say that person's a good cop? Would you really think that's a good cop? Even if they're not going to do those actions themselves, letting it happen and not saying anything with their colleagues or actively maiming someone, trampling on someone's rights in the process of killing someone. Is that a good officer to you? It isn't to me. And none of us would get away with anything like that. We all know if we're the getaway driver for like a bank heist and someone's killed, we're now charged with murder too. It's great that we finally get to see police officers held to the same standard that we normal citizens are. We gathered all the facts we could. We reviewed the criminal statutes. We looked at case law, consulted with each other, and we arrived at these charges. We believe they are justified by the facts of the law. That's amazing. It's great to see Keith Ellison using his power to make a change. Keith Ellison, I'm quite sure he's kind of new to being in this position as the Attorney General from Minnesota. I believe he came into office the last couple election cycles, but don't quote me on that. I'm not entirely sure. But it's great to finally see these people hopefully being made an example of to other cops around the world or around the country, that this sort of thing won't stand anymore. If anything comes out of these protests, if anything comes out of these riots, if anything comes out of these criminal charges, I hope it's that even when a cop is out there about to do some wrong, he has that creeping thought in the back of his mind that he'll be held accountable for this. Because for too long, police officers were able to get away with basically what Chauvin was able to do without any charges brought against them. Now is the time that stops. And hopefully it starts with this.